Dear friend, today I'm going to be sharing with you about this idea of an angel investor of belief. And I want to start off with a story of the first room that I stepped into where I really developed a skill set that I didn't have in the beginning. So I was in Thrive College. I had just moved up to Sacramento. I'd grown up in LA for the first 20 years of my life and then moved up to Sacramento. And really, it was to answer two questions. The first question was, how much better of a drummer could I become? And the second question was, did I want to work in a church as a career? Was that something that I wanted to do long term? I didn't know. And so I went the fastest way to find out is to test it. Now, I had been playing drums for 7 years before I moved up here, but I had really never been quite good enough to play in live environments. I'd done one summer jazz band, but really I moved up here to change my environment and be able to play more drums. I think on some level I was I had always felt like an outsider, especially growing up in LA and wanting to play music but not being good enough. And I think that's one of the things that I found as I progressed and joined Thrive Colleges. I really went from being much more of an outsider to becoming more of an insider. And I think each and every one of us, as we step into a new space, we're going, do I belong here? And for me, the biggest shift that happened was I had what I now refer to as an angel investor of belief. So what does that mean? An angel investor of belief is like a regular angel investor, which essentially is someone who invests money into companies. They're a venture capitalist, and they know that 8 out of 10 of those companies is going to fail. But two of them are going to be massive. And so they invest their money knowing that 8 out of 10 of these, they're going to fail, but two are going to be awesome. And angel investors of belief are the same way. They see who people can become and they call that out of them and they see what's possible. And I had that in Thrive College. I had it from two particular people that are coming to mind in this moment. The first one was Josh Falcone. My first year when I moved up here, I was playing drums, but I was one of the. There were four drummers. I was the second worst, or uh, I was the third of the four of us, and there was a pretty significant gap between me and number two and the number one. And something that I know about myself now is whenever I'm stepping into a space, I'm asking, how do I win in this room? Well, I knew that developing skill, becoming the best drummer, that was how I would win. However, the other guys had huge head starts. They had played drums live for years before I had. And so I couldn't necessarily make up the skill gap as fast as I would have liked to. But what I could do was practice, and I had a teacher who I would meet with one on one once a week. I was practicing at least an hour every single day, and I was finding what were my weak points and how could I get better. And but what really made all the difference as I was in this space was my second year. There's this guy named Josh Falcone, and he was over the Folsom campus, and he saw not my current skill level. He saw the skill that I could develop, and he went, I want Daniel. And he was one of the first angel investors of belief in me as a drummer. And he saw who I could become, even though I wasn't him yet. And over the course of that second year, I did go from being one of the ones that they didn't really want to. I ended up getting to be the drummer who transitioned the adventure campus from the small room with an SPDS, which is this electronic sampling pad, to a real drum set because I could play quietly on the cymbals and not have people be mad at the volume. And I ended up being the one who went to Bayside Santa Rosa, and I ended up playing drums. There were in 2017 there was the Santa Rosa fires, and I was there the week before the fires happened, and then the 4 weeks after. And actually, 5 years later, I ended up being able to play drums on the 5 year anniversary, and that was kind of surreal. Um, but without Josh going, I can see who he can become, and I'm going to ask that he be here and play. Like, he didn't have to do that, but he did. The other person who did this for me was Noah Dione. And there was one time where he said this to me, and I don't think I'll ever forget it, which he went, "You're just as good of a drummer as I am. I just keep being given these opportunities to play in these different environments, and then I make mistakes, and then I get better. But you're actually just as good of a drummer. You're just not getting the reps." And there was one time where he had been assigned to play staff meeting, and he went, "Actually, I'm going to decline it, and you're going to play this staff meeting because you just need to get the reps." And so he declined it, told the guy who was scheduling that he couldn't do it, and instead went, "You should have Daniel do it." And then that guy did schedule me, and then Noah worked with me for 2 hours that night to help prepare me to be able to go into staff meeting. Not only that, but at the time there was something called Bayside College, which is now either Bayside Young Adults or 1825. Um, and he was playing drums there, but he also could play bass. And so he actually switched to bass and helped me become more comfortable playing drums in that environment. And what he and I both didn't know was that after 4 weeks of that, he was then going to get sick and have to fly back to New York. And so, without realizing it, he had invested that belief in me that I could be better, and he had given me a skill set of actually playing in that environment. So all of a sudden now he's gone, but I've already shifted to where I was feeling much more comfortable and confident in my skill set in that new space. And so I am so grateful for both Noah and Josh in that environment, because without people who see who saw what was in me before I could, I wouldn't have become the drummer that I've become. And I think that's so true in so many areas of my life, where there was someone early in my life who saw what I could not yet see. And I'm willing to bet that in your life, if you're younger, you may not have had anyone who's done that for you yet. But I imagine that there are people who are seeing good in you. And I just want to encourage you, if nothing else, to think about what they're saying and going, maybe they're right. Because for me, I found that it was incredibly hard to accept the good things that people would say about me. And over time, I have transitioned to going, actually, I'm going to accept this and go, even if I don't fully believe it, I'm going to ask myself this simple question: what if this were true? What if what they're seeing in me is actually who I am and is who I can actually become? Because as soon as I ask that question, then all of a sudden there's this excitement, there's this life, there's this almost like energy that shifts, going, wow, if they can see that in me, what if I can actually bring that into spaces? What if Josh is right that I can become this better drummer? What if Noah's right that all I need is the reps that he was getting, and I'll be as good of a drummer as he was? And the thing is they were right. And that's why it matters. That's why having people who see the good in you and call that out matters. Because it can seem like the smallest thing in the moment, but it's not a small thing to have someone who believes in you, especially in moments where you feel like you're on the outside or you're not that skilled or you're not that special. Having that one person who has power, who has the influence, who has a title, who then says, I see something in you. If you are in that position, you have a responsibility to call that out of people that are in that space, to not just go, cool, I've made it, I have this power now, but instead to use that and leverage that to build people around you up. Because at least in this space, it's people over everything. And that people are provision, and that provision comes through people, that we are angel investors of belief, where we will call out in people what may not yet be, but by calling it out, we can then materialize it into the future. There's this great quote from Erwin Raphael McManus, which talks about how beavers create dams, um, beavers create dams, ants create colonies, but humans create futures. And if you paint a compelling view of the future for someone else, it's amazing to see that once they go, this is possible, because you saw it in them before they saw it. Now all of a sudden there's so much more life in them. And you have the ability to give them that gift. I have the ability to give people that gift. And I have felt the positive effects and seen it, not just in my drumming career, but in so many other areas of my life. And this is just one of so many stories. And I'm going to keep sharing these. So if you enjoyed this, please go ahead and subscribe to this YouTube channel, to this podcast. And the other thing is, send this to someone who believed in you before you believed in you. And just say, hey, you were an angel investor of belief. I listened to this and it made me think of you. There's something amazing um, about hearing a story and sending it to someone that then is a way for them to feel special and to do this. That's something that I do in my life when I listen to a podcast or a YouTube video and there's a section that resonates with me. I will just send it to friends of mine and go, hey, this section at whatever timestamp reminded me of you. You were this person who believed in me. So send this to someone, because we all need encouragement to or be reminded of the good that we have done, because it's easy to forget, but it's so important to be that voice of hope. There's power in being in the room, and there's immense power in being an angel investor of belief. So that's all for this week. Have a good one. Adios.